All right, we're now recording. Welcome everyone to our Agricultural Careers and Entrepreneurship Virtual Center webinars. A little bit of information here about this AG&R initiative. We're really excited to be hosting these. We had a summer series and this is our fall series, and really focusing it around some entrepreneurial type topics. So for more information, you can go to the website below and see more of our resources, as well as the number of networks and connections that we have throughout the state for both students, aspiring farmers, and entrepreneurs. So with this, I'm really excited to be able to turn this over to Ginger Myers. She's a marketing specialist for University of Maryland Extension. She is very, I believe, inspirational in getting your business started and making some of those tough decisions. So Ginger, you can share your screen now and pull up your PowerPoint.
Okay, there we are. Can everybody see that?
Yes, looks good.
Okay. Well, as Shannon said, welcome today. We're going to talk about agricultural and rural entrepreneurship. A title you may have seen that goes with this presentation, not on this slide, is, entrepreneurs, are they born or are they made? Okay, guys, now there we go. Excuse me. As Shannon said, I am the marketing specialist for agriculture and food systems at the University of Maryland Extension and the director of the Maryland Rural Enterprise Development Center, which is a 24/7 online business development site for rural businesses. I've worked for a long time with agribusiness and consulting. I am the marketing specialist. I work though more with direct marketers. If you're looking to learn about contracting for grain or poultry, I don't work in those fields. I work more with new markets, network opportunities, farmers markets, people looking to start small businesses, business planning, and how to develop these small rural businesses. My husband and I also have a grass-based livestock farm in Carroll County where we direct market our beef, pork, lamb, chicken, and anything else we can get sold in the farm store. When we start looking at entrepreneurship, we always think of, well, what do they make? What do they do? Well, in agriculture, the possibilities are just endless because of a consumer demand for diversity. Go to the grocery store and walk down the chip aisle or the soda aisle, and the number and variety of basically what is the same category of product fills those aisles. When we think of Starbucks coffee, one of the attributes for Starbucks is, yes, coffee, but when you look at the board with the number of varieties and options for the type of coffee you get, anything from teas to flavors to blends, consumers demand diversity in this country. We want choices. When you look at our economies as well, choices have driven with production and development and efficiencies. If you go back to when we were agrarian, our great grandparents, where the production and the product was concrete. You grew something, you made something that you sold, and entrepreneurship was how to make the product. Then we move into the industrial age, where automation came in, factories came in, efficiency, a lot more concrete type ideas, and starting to get on the abstract. What could you look like or develop in that product? The next big evolution in our agencies and economies then is certainly, we've seen this as the information age. And that's really been driven by the internet and online and media. I mean, think of the days before even television or radio. Now that we are interactive in sharing information, how fast ideas emerge, how fast wants and needs rise to the surface for entrepreneurs to cook up ideas and products about. And then we've kind of moved now, taking all those three periods, the tools from that. We're in the imagination economy now. If you can dream it, can you make it? There aren't a lot of new, absolutely new products under the sun, but there are certainly a myriad of ways to make products, deliver products, and manipulate the tools that we have now, both in production and ag economics and ag technology, to be very creative in what we see coming from entrepreneurship moving forward. So, what's agricultural rural entrepreneurship look like? Well, it's not actually defined by new products. We always think, oh, the entrepreneur is the person who made the new thing. A lifetime commodity producer like Frank Perdue can be an entrepreneur. It's the process, not just the product. It can often be the product, but it's often the process that the entrepreneur brings forward. So again, agricultural entrepreneurship, as we said, may be a lifetime commodity producer, but entrepreneurship really is defined by the processes undertaken. How do you develop change? How do you move it forward? Is it faster, cheaper, more efficient, more creative? Does it satisfy wants and needs that have lingered and not been satisfied? Entrepreneurs explore, but don't necessarily make new things. If you want to think of the term, do they make better things or do they make advances? Do they make changes? Do they improve the quality of life? These are the kinds of outputs that entrepreneurs really do develop. Still didn't answer the question about what is an entrepreneur now. So I like to use the analogy that entrepreneurs are kind of like musicians. You know, this is J.S. Bach. He's a very well-known musician and a very Baroque style that we still listen to today, considering our classical music. He is a musician. So they're also sort of like other musicians. Bruce Springsteen, he's a musician. Not like Bach, it's not the same product or the same music, but they're both musicians. And then there's Jesse Norman. Jesse Norman was one of the first Black opera singers in the United States, internationally known. Again, a musician, very different style, very different output, but we'd call them all musicians. So what is an entrepreneur? Well, they're sort of like musicians. They're individuals that are endowed with different natural skill levels. Now, I didn't quantify what those skill levels were, but that it's something that they have naturally. Musicians hone their skills. They may have been born with perfect pitch or the ability to transcribe, but they still have to hone their skills, maybe through training of their voice or their instrument. They spend hours in practice, and then having a stage presence. You know, somebody who has terrible stage fright or no presence around people, while they might be a wonderful musician, will never be able to deliver their talent to the public. So they've honed these skills mostly through experience or practice. And sometimes we envision that an entrepreneur, it just comes natural and it just flows out of them. But we're going to see that just like a musician, entrepreneurship needs training, it needs practice, it needs direction to truly deliver its full potential. So what kind of skills are entrepreneurial? What does it take? We talked about musicians and their natural ability. Well, in some ways, a person who wants to be entrepreneurial or who's pursuing an entrepreneurial pursuit or skill or idea, usually they're innovative. They have the ability to connect the dots that maybe the rest of us don't see. Again, back to Frank Perdue, producing chickens, long time production, but the ability to connect the dots to efficiency of output, the number to grow, the ability to process and distribute, that was him connecting the dots between the needs of the public to buy these birds and the resources between the growers. It could be related to products or processes I've just kind of outlined for you. The second one here is the ability to create a business plan. Now, I know that for some folks, oh, the business plan is very onerous. It's a big, thick 30-page document and we don't know how to write it. When I say the ability to create a business plan, it eventually becomes written, but they have the ability to see the pieces fitting together. How do I do production? What kind of finances do I need? Who do I have to hire for this and that piece? While that might not be what you think is the dreamy entrepreneurship innovation, they have the ability to turn it into a practical application and perhaps funding. Just like the musician who's wonderfully talented, excuse me. Again, if they suffer from stage fright or they can't connect with their listeners, they're never going to be successful. We have to take that step of turning in the plan, doing the practice, working on it. That flows right into this ability to sell an idea to investors or lenders. You may start out with your own funding. You may start out with a small group, but to have a larger impact, to be able to move faster in with your ideas, you're probably at some point going to have to look at having some kind of external investment. Now, I caution you not to go out and use your credit cards to the max to fund your entrepreneurial idea. Um, that's a way to get in trouble, but think about where funding can come from. And there's vehicles, some of the crowdsourced funding. Family and friends are still a source, again, for the ability to fund. But to really grow a business, you need the ability to sell that idea, what you bring forth, to someone who has the money, who wants to invest in you. We look at Wall Street now and the IPOs for Lyft or any of the new delivery systems with product online right now, and you look at how fast all of that is growing. That didn't just happen because COVID said delivery was the way to go. It happened because the folks who were innovative about how to transport product had their ideas fleshed out and had a plan and could go after the kind of investors that they needed to make that happen faster. And that flows right down to marketing. The whole, how are you going to present it? What's your customer service? And if this looks like traditional business planning, you're right. That's exactly what it is. Having a great idea is the launch pad, but the vehicle that will get you to the moon is doing the rest of the steps like traditional business. So just to talk a little bit about what kind of things, again, can we talk about that are going to be entrepreneurial? And we've touched on this just a little bit. I did want to say before I got to this slide, one of the questions was, we said, were entrepreneurs born or are they made? And I hope by this time, particularly after that last slide about business development, that you realize it's some of both. You may have that innate innovation, but if you don't have the skills to bring it forth, the made portion, learning how to get things down on paper, how to write a business plan, how to do some marketing and selling, you'll never be as truly successful in delivering of that. So now let's stop again and look at some alternatives, because you may be wondering, well, what options are out there? You're saying that there's lots of choices and opportunities in agriculture, but what are those? Well, first and foremost, certainly production methods, how it's produced. With the advent of precision agriculture in the last few years, we can see where innovation and technology has certainly impacted yields, efficiency, resource management. These are all things that have to do with production. It may not be as technical as a droid. It may be as simple as water flow through irrigation, but it has to do with the production, and usually it has to do with efficiency and lowering the cost of productions most often. The other thing, of course, is yield, and we've been super good about yields. Excuse me. Market outlets, where and how it's sold. The internet has certainly changed this whole game. Innovating, how you buy things online or how you purchase. We've gone through, and at least in my lifetime, from the mom and pop shop on the corner that that their innovation was to serve their neighborhoods, to then we went to big grocery stores where, the real definition of hunter gatherer took place. You went in there and you got everything. Then we went to big boxes. We still have some of this, but we're coming back to um, different options on the size of the store and online delivery. I mean, we've already seen that online sales were more than tripled in the last few months. And so these outlets, how you're going to deliver product faster and certainly more economical for doing it online. But also, is it personal? I've seen a great rise in personal consulting, personal health coaches. These market outlets are making this connection in a different way with folks. We've already talked about internet driven when the use of technology and services offered. Um, Now you can have someone do your grocery shopping for you. You can have someone clean your car. You can have someone come in and do your house. What services do they offer that satisfy a want or a need? The landscaping business, I'm working with an entrepreneur. He's developing these food systems for high-end houses where actually raised beds with fruit trees and that sort of thing to satisfy the want or need to be able to go out there, fresh fruit, the availability of having edible landscapes. That's a service. Or if you're the service that takes care of the problem someone has. Oftentimes we call on when we have an emergency, like insurance, or if you need something fixed quickly. The service industry in our country is growing rapidly, and one of the largest areas is in healthcare. So when you think about your talents or what you see as a problem, would it fit into any of those kinds of services or the health profession? Tourism and hospitality. Um, wow, who wants to be entrepreneurial out having a good time in the pumpkin patch? But it's much more than that. It's been the innovation of glamping, camping, uh, outside experience, local, the locavore movement, not just in food, but experience of the community. Hospitality is anytime you open up the ability to interact with product, people, or places. Place-based experiences. I mean, we're a little constricted now with some of the limits to how many people can be in a place, but watching what happened here over COVID, going from not being able to perhaps stay at a hotel to farms now open for camping experiences spread out across their farm, or outdoor movies in the hayfield. These are all alternatives. And you say, well, can you build a thriving business on it? Well, it depends on where you start and where you see it going. Uh, I would suspect that we're going to see more tents, more outside screens, more abilities to have home entertainment going on in places. I heard from a builder the other day that he built pagodas on the side. He did a lot of construction work. He can't build pagodas fast enough for people that are ordering them to have somewhere to have an outside experience on their property. So sometimes, again, entrepreneurial alternatives surface that want or need driven by the time, and then the ability to pivot and take that to the next level. So why should we bother with entrepreneurship? It's hit or miss. Whatever's going to happen happens. Well, 83% or 89, I'm sorry, 0.3% of U.S. businesses are small businesses. They are individually owned with fewer than 20 employees, and again have been built by somebody's ideas on either process or product. And it really does represent about 24% of our private sector employees. We know small business is what drives the economy in this country. We talk about Fortune 500, we talk about the Forbes list, but when you look at the number of people employed and the advancement in business, it's often small business entrepreneur, someone who had an idea or a dream or an intuition and took it forward, not just for themselves, but were able to grow it to actually employ others. I wanted to share this example. In agriculture, we talk a lot about nutrient management in Maryland because of our the way we document and handle, particularly animal waste runoff, which is very important with the bay. Matthew and Ben Freud in East Canaan, Connecticut, are dairy farmers. And what you're looking at is a picture of their lagoon, their manure lagoon. They have several hundred dairy cows and milk cows, but we're looking at this lagoon and they have to be careful how much they're spreading or even irrigating with this. So they also know that the bedding that they use in their free stalls, if they strain out or sift out solids out of that lagoon, they actually get a product that they can put in a form that's a transplant pot. It's 100% renewable. It's composted cow manure. They make these pots, and they've been about this for several years now, but they have outlets across the country. Mike Rowell was there and did the Dirty Jobs TV. This is an earlier picture when they've been on the radio. But their idea was to take a resource they had, a problem that they had, match it to what's a want or need. Well, anything that's ecological, grows plants, that replaces plastic, they could make into a product that they could sell and help their farm and others. So I want to just go over real quick some of the basic requirements. If you're thinking about a product or service, we talk to entrepreneurs all the time. We have a coaching team with Extension that if you want to have the ability to have someone listen and kind of air out your ideas and give you directions, you can schedule an entrepreneurial coaching session with us through the Maryland Rural Enterprise Development Center. We can go one-on-one. And so we can offer you the ear to hear about your ideas, to help you refine it, to ask some questions about where you're going and what your next needs are. And some of those questions are going to be on this list, and we ask you, you may not know what you don't know, so we're pretty straightforward on these questions. So does your product, service, or business serve an underserved need? And you can say, well, I don't know. That's part of the research you need to know. Do you have, if there's already 8,000 of something on the market, is there room for one more? And I think often of barbecue sauces. We often work with food entrepreneurs who they've got the next great barbecue sauce. And I'm not going to say that they can't get big, but you've got to start and get through. And what it makes yours special that's so different from the other? What is the underserved need? Is it that there's no barbecue sauce that is the flavor you have, the heat element you have? Perhaps it's made with a product that is gleaned from somewhere else, so it's ecologically a little different. What is your niche? And that's where you're going to have to look for to see if you have an idea that's underserved. And that underserved means, is there a market for it? Can you serve an existing market in which the demand exceeds the supply? We've seen the number of online delivery platforms blossom during these last 8 months. There have been several out there already, but the underserved needs. I get on our farm here probably a request every week, at least, or every 2 weeks, from a platform that wants to deliver online food to the consumer. They're seeing that there's a want or need there, and that there's opportunity for more than Amazon delivering food. It's been a real boom. And do you have an advantage? Can you compete with existing competition? Oftentimes I hear people say, price. Price is difficult to compete when somebody's already established and won't have all the upstart costs that you might have. But prices can be at least there if you have a product that meets a different niche. And I think of, years ago it used to be organic. Organic's gotten somewhat diluted. We now hear things like regenerative. One of the things that consumers are really more attentive to now than before is how their food's being produced. They are asking the questions, how are the animals treated? Do you use fertilizer and chemicals? Um, there's the ability to have your story. What makes your idea special? What makes it different from anyone else that can help bring your product to the market? As I said, there's endless opportunities in agriculture because of food and fiber, fuels. When you think of the scope of agricultural economy from that, remember that agrarian society that we had in the economies, all the way up to the imaginative economies we're pursuing now. There's lots of diversity. And I was reading an article the other day that said there are like 7,500 different tomato varieties. Um, I have trouble picking out 3 from my garden. So why so many? Well, it could be where they're grown, could be the style, could be the flavor, could be the size. And you start thinking, well, we don't need one more tomato variety. I will tell you that I've already looked at the catalogs for 2021, and just about everywhere where I grow, where I purchase transplants or seeds, is introducing a new variety this year. So again, when we think about it's already there, what's the opportunity for what's not there? Is it bigger? Is it cheaper? Uh, is it a variety that's lower in acid? Is it heat tolerant, cold tolerant? All those aspects. So when you look at what you're thinking of doing, I can't tell you enough to develop your own story about what makes yours different, what makes it advantageous, what is your niche, what does it satisfy as a want or need for consumers in services or products. That's all entrepreneurship. It sounds like pretty traditional business development, but remember that innovation without a delivery vehicle seldom is profitable or comes to market. So you might be an entrepreneur if you're a self-starter, if you can think that taking initiative and can move yourself forward is your game. Often in extension, we talk to lots of folks who have ideas and a lot of things on paper, and they don't always transpire into things. And sometimes we consider that a success because those folks aren't wasting their time or money. But you're going to have to be the self-starter. You're the one who's going to have the push and the drive and have the passion. You've got to really love what you're doing and believe that what you're doing is going to make a difference. People skills, you need to be able to communicate. People buy from people they like. If that's not you, then perhaps a partner who has more of that people skill presence. Not to say people won't like you, but they have to be comfortable with your story, with your presence, with how you come across. And that's just personal preference. And that you're not willing to take no for an answer. I often see this happen in the food industry whenever we talk about regs and the way to produce it. Many times, local municipalities and regions, their planning and zoning areas will say, no, you can't make that, or no, you can't do this here. I'm not asking you to go against regulations, but I'm asking you to be persistent about how to do things. As you get beyond local development, whenever you get into federal or FSA or FDA regulations, they're there for a reason. But entrepreneurs dig deeper. They look for how can this be done? They look for examples of how it was done. Don't take no for an answer. And certainly, being creative. And again, it doesn't mean you're coming up with something new, but you're coming up with a new way or a new item or a new delivery. And that you're competitive by nature. That goes back to not taking no for an answer. That just because someone says no and you'll never get that done that way, you're not going to take that. And certainly you're hardworking. I tell entrepreneurs all the time, um, it's a lot of time, and you've got to hang with it. But I will caution, oftentimes when we start in the conversations on coaching and someone has an idea of business they want to start, they often lead with, I know how to work real hard. That's good because that's necessary, but that's not enough. And I send them back up to the top of this list and we roll through it again. But certainly, the opportunities there, you can do it if you can keep the initiative going. If you're that kind of person where you're willing to hone your skills, to practice at it, to become a professional at it, to develop a good product or service. I put on there, measure twice and cut once. My only caution is don't love your own product or idea so much that you're not willing to take criticism to make it better. Um, you know, Oftentimes the prototype is just that, it's the first round, and then be willing to take constructive criticism and revise and renew and rebuild, but enjoy it. If this isn't something that fills your passion and your time, uh, it won't be satisfying. And there's lots of things to do in life. Be happy with what you're going to do. So enjoy the challenge. If you're an entrepreneur, go for it. Okay, we're back.
Great. Any questions for Ginger? You can put those there in the chat pod. Or you can unmute. I guess, Ginger, my question would be, if somebody has this idea, what do you think their first steps are? They have sort of an entrepreneurial idea. What's step one?
Write it down. Write it down and start working through the process. And in the meantime, you have this idea, you start to look for opportunities to where can this be built or happen. Now, extension can often give you resources on the food end, and I'll just speak there. I keep a directory of who can help you upscale a product. Is taking your wonderful cookies from 5 dozen to 500 dozen. Who can help you do that? Small business development in your county can often help you with those kind of resources. The community college all have local business networks where you can come in and connect in the community and start making those contacts. If it's a technical product that you're looking for engineering, again, the College of Agriculture and the engineering are places to start to at least ask for what does this look like? Where do I need to go next? But I'm telling you to write down the steps of everything you think it's going to take from this is what I want to do. This is how it's going to be made and what it looks like. And then what don't I know? I don't know how much it costs. I don't know who the packaging is. I don't know how to do a wholesale account. Those are all things that you can learn. Extension has training modules. The Maryland Rural Enterprise Development Center can help. Certainly the College of Agriculture. Extension in your county is a great front door that can help you connect with others across the state. Or if your ideas are not within our realm, one of the great things about the land grant college system is that we can find you help and connections anywhere in the country. I'm looking at Brandy's question here. Can a standard business plan be found online? You can find any business plan online. You can find the outline online, and that's what I prefer that you look at. But again, this has to be your plan. There is an online site at the University of Minnesota under agplan.umn.edu, which is an online source for a business plan template that will actually help you walk through the sections. But just like writing a grant, having someone else write your business plan seldom works because They're not inside your head. They don't know what you know. What you need is guidance on the plan, not somebody else writing it for you. So I would start with an outline. And if you get stuck, then you contact someone like me or Shannon, and we can help you through that. But that agplan.umn.edu has templates on different types of products, enterprises, and it's a WYSIWYG. You'll see what you're putting in there. It also gives hints on the bottom of what should be included in this section. And some of it you may not know. I know folks get hung up writing a business plan because they really don't know cost yet. So start the plan, research, and it's going to take a while. If nothing else, that when I tell people to write down everything on a piece of paper, that's what I call your business map. It's how you're going to get there. It's not your plan, but it is a map to get you started.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great. Well, Ginger, I really appreciate you presenting today. I'm going to put your email here in the chat pod, and that
Sure.
way people can see that if they want to get back in touch with you with any other information or follow-up. And I'm going to stop recording. Go ahead and do that.